The Warriors are elite. Right now, the second best team in the NRL. That's a fact. That's what's earned after 5 wins in a row.
Stuff goes on behind the scenes. I don't know specifically, but players get poached, and I'm sure coaches get poached behind the scenes. That stuff happens. Yep. So I'm sure there's some clubs in Sydney right now thinking, he's a New South Welshman. He was coaching at Penrith and the West Tigers as an assistant. Why can't we bring him back over here?
Every now and again, you'll get an Artie Savia that plays out of his skin and just does something amazing. What we're seeing week in, week out is a dozen players or more doing exactly that in the NRL.
Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble.
Oh, he's done it again, Ricky Hogan.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the DSPN, ladies and gentlemen. Marty Devlin, Lachlan Waugh, another podcast, another show. If you're listening on Rover, Spotify, Google, Apple Play, wherever you find your favourite podcast, thank you so much. That's the full version, the audio version of the show we put out every afternoon on YouTube. We slice it into smaller chunks for your consumption. Again, thank you for supporting us. If you can click that subscribe button on YouTube for us, it does help. Over 6,500 subscribers now. We're heading to 7,000. Want to get to 10,000 as quick as possible. And well over 1 million views in the 24 weeks we've been doing this podcast. So if you know anyone else that might like what you're listening to and what you're looking at, let them know. Let them be part of the show. BLT, Big League Tuesday it is. No Tony Kemp today, though. Tony's going to join us tomorrow. Matt Gunn, Bulldogs fan, him assessing Tight five separate sporting topics from round 11 in the NRL. Lachlan's going to join me as we play Glass Half Full. And we kick off the show the same way every day, a sermon from the mountaintop.
Marty's Sermons, brought to you by WebWonks. Generate online leads with WebWonks. Doctors for your Google data.
We live in an amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
So what do we learn after round 11 then? At least 3 big things. Number 1, the Warriors are elite. That word, elite. Right now, the second best team in the NRL. That's a fact. That's what's earned after 5 wins in a row. 8 from the last 9. Repeat that. Since losing to Canberra, opening round in Vegas, 8 wins from the last 9. Riding the best winning streak in the comp, 5 in a row. Second best start to a season in the club's history. And 3 matches on the trot away from home. These are the facts. These are the stats. Just 1 win off the top spot, and more importantly, a nice gap over the chasing pack. 5 of the 8 wins have been by 4 points or less. That says resilience. That screams composure. That clearly demonstrates the club has learned from last year when they couldn't close those close ones. Now able to absorb that pressure and turn could'ves and should'ves into W's. And deservedly so, because nothing gets given to you in this comp. You know that. You got to earn it. You have to deserve it. 8 wins from the first 10 games is elite form. Be happy, Warriors fans. You have every right to be. Number 2, the Sharks just might be ready to fulfill their potential at long last. Long considered underachievers, unable to live up to expectations come finals time. They're the one team everyone wants in the playoffs because they more often than not go missing right at that wrong time. But once again, you can't question their current form. 5 wins from the last 6. They were 2 and 3. They're now 7 and 4. Top 5 just beat the Storm. Again, impressive. The stats are undeniable. Since losing to Penrith in the opening Vegas round, they've gone 7 and 3. They're too consistent a performer year on year in the regular season to ever be labelled a dark horse. But maybe, just maybe, they've learned enough. Again, earned enough to this year stay the course. And number 3, this comp is still impossible to pick, and 5 teams are already gone. I'll explain that. Might be 4 already gone. I defy anyone to be getting 8 out of 8 every week. Is there a person out there in any tipping comp anywhere who's constantly racking up the perfect picks? I doubt it. Show me that person. Who do you know this round who got everything right? Manly to win in Townsville, Sharks to beat the Storm. There are upsets all over the shop every weekend. It's more competitive than ever. But having said that, I think we can also cut, let me say, 4 teams adrift already. Not even halfway through, and it's clear and obvious that the Eels, Titans, Knights and Dolphins aren't winning jack. 4 teams on 8 points. Mathematically, only 2 wins outside the 8, whatever. Seriously? Are any of that lot winning the chip this year? No. Are any of them making the top 4 this year? No. Those answers are obvious. For those 4 teams, even this early on, the dream is over with just 11 rounds gone.
Martin Devlin.
BLT, Big League Tuesday, continues with, well, it's my favourite game actually on a Tuesday. Glass half full.
Glass half full.
Where I present Lachlan with a whole lot of situations, scenarios, teams, conversation starters around the NRL after 11 rounds, and he tells me whether or not he's glass half full, glass half empty, or he's sitting on the glass fence.
Yes!
We're going to start with your Broncos, because yesterday you said that you're taking a break. This relationship's been going now for, well, it's been a marriage of 15 years or so?
17.
17
years. You get
years.
this number wrong all the time.
17 years, and they've reached a stage where they're going to counselling now. Lachlan has been very disappointed for a while. He's found it hard to express the way that he feels about the Broncos. That has gone into anger, resentment, and now the relationship has turned quite toxic.
Very toxic. Look, I came home over the weekend to what I assumed, on Sunday to be a lovely day together, spending the day together, cooking a nice meal, relaxing at home, and I found the Broncos cheating on me. So I had to. I was done with it. It's been too many times now.
They're not cheating on you. They're just letting you down. They're just disappointing.
Exactly. They're letting me down. They're breaking my heart. So I had to. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. You're out of here. Okay. You've been on the couch for a couple of weeks. I was ready to bring you back into my bedroom, but no. You're out of here. Sorry. Stay at the motel down the road. You're not even staying at a hotel. Stay at a motel. Okay.
This was another game where the Broncos should have won this game. Got off to a handy start against the St George side, which had brought no form into it. Let's be honest. That Dragon side had lost their previous 3. They get a try before half time. And then what happened after half time? They just, I thought watching that game that the Broncos, even up until the last bit where Reynolds got robbed of the ball, I thought you were still going to either draw the game and go into Golden Point or win the game. You were the better team.
Yeah, a few things. To the Dragons' credit, they came back against the Warriors and only lost narrowly. And against the Tigers at Magic Round, obviously Jaden Sewer had that bombed try that had he scored that game might have gone a bit differently. So it's not as if they've been walloped for the last few weeks. But there's a lot of things that have shown through in the Broncos' performances this year that make me very nervous, and they come up early in the game. The Broncos will have maybe a really good first 5 or 10 minutes where they're making heavy hits on defence. The attack is moving, and it's at least asking questions of the opposition defence. But they start to fall off tackles. They give up a disgusting number of metres in the field, and they find themselves defending in their own 20-metre line. That then leads to 6 agains and giving away penalties. The number of 6 agains they give away in their own half is criminal. As well as that, on attack, all of a sudden, there's no structure. Guys are running the wrong routes. There's an obstruction waiting to happen, so the guy has to surrender and into the tackle. They drop balls. They throw forward passes. The try that Ezra Mam set up in the first half shouldn't have been a try. As much as Brisbane had the most of the chances to start that game, that shouldn't have been a try. In saying all that, they had a 12-0 lead, and they had done enough with moments of individual brilliance, mainly from Ezra Mam, which I feel bad saying, to be honest. Brilliance.
They're not playing as a team.
He probably shouldn't be playing at the moment, but because of him, Brisbane were up. And then in the second half, as that has happened for the last few weeks, happened against the Rabbitohs, the Panthers not so much, happened against the Dogs to an extent, but we were up by 36 points at halftime, I think it was. They just don't turn up in the second half. The effort's not there. Just, sport's pretty simple. All you have to do is put in about 80 to 100% of effort, and then you can get your job done.
This is a long diatribe on the fact that you're so empty. There's not even a drop left in the glass.
But it's the same. There's no change or improvement.
No,
this was the big issue last year, is that we were waiting for Brisbane. When I say we, I mean Broncos fans, and I guess the public, the NRL public. We were waiting for the Broncos to hit the heights of 2023. Well, we know what they can do. We're just waiting for them to do it. They never did it. The difference with this year is there's been 2 games where they have done it, which is round 1 against the Roosters and the Bulldogs game a few weeks back. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, nothing's changed from last year to this year. What's the constant? It's the blimmin' players.
It is the players, and I'm going to add Reece Walsh to this glass half full, glass half empty. Not as a person or a player, but his actions on the sideline on the weekend. Now, he's not playing. He's sitting there, and he's doing Instagram poses on the sideline that he then posts and points out that he's hosting something on YouTube after he's doing this during the game. Yeah, but he's using the sideline performance and the cameras on him for his own personal benefit and gain. That to me says everything wrong about him and the club at the moment. That you've got a bunch of guys. What is it? It's a team sport. For 80 minutes, mate, focus on what your mates are doing. You don't need to be selling yourself in your Instagram and stop it, mate. Follow the team, support the team, save all that bollocks for later, isn't it?
Agreed. Being the devil's advocate, and I'm stretching my own moral fibre here. I'm sort of stamping on it on the ground that at least he didn't do it in the second half when the Broncos were losing. He did it, I think, at the very start of the game or just before kickoff. But still, you've got to read the room.
Mate, it's not
Stop
about you. It's
things
about
like this when your team is struggling for form. It's not about you, it's about the club.
You've lost 5 of 6, mate. Come on.
And you've got probably one of the 2 or 3 best rosters in the competition. Some would say the best. I don't think it's as good as Melbourne's, but you look at that pool of players and you look at the coach. You've got a CEO who was the head of the Storm for a long time and came up to Brisbane. There's no excuses for this team to not be winning.
No excuses at all. Let's talk about the Storm, glass half full, glass half empty. This is their form over the last 5. Loss, win, loss, win, loss. They've lost 3 of their last 5. And they lost to the Sharks. Again, a game that you're sitting there thinking they're not going to lose this game. This is a team that took the Warriors apart. Last Warriors defeat, okay? They took them
and the Tigers.
They took them apart.
2 weeks back.
64-0 they beat the Tigers the weekend before this. And that first half against the Warriors, you looking at that thought, this team is way ahead of everyone else, right? What has gone wrong with that side? And glass half full, glass half empty on them at the moment. I've still got to be glass half full because I look at their roster and I think they are going to be in the top 4 Melbourne Storm. But what has been going wrong for them?
There's been a couple of years where Melbourne have actually done this. They did this in 2014 and they did this in 2022 where they at their best are the Melbourne Storm. Okay, they just tear teams apart, but there will be weeks where they fall off the horse a little bit, and they just seem to be doing that at the moment. You know, one week they're looking their usual brilliant selves. Manly a few weeks ago, or that might have been about 2 months ago now, and then you have the Tigers game, you have the Warriors games, but then you have the Raiders game where they were great for the first 30 minutes, first half.
Still should have won.
And then sort of just kind of took the foot off the pedal, and the Raiders came back. And there was the Dolphins game, which is a similar thing. Mm-hmm. They were running away with that. And then the Dolphins scored, 40 unanswered points on them? They're just doing that this year. Now, I don't think it's tactical. I don't think you lose games on purpose. But I don't think there's any panic within that camp because they know that they are always there in the top 4 at the end of the season. And the thing about the Storm, as I talked about a few weeks ago on this podcast, is that they actually don't have a great conversion rate when they get the minor premiership, so it doesn't really matter if they get it or not.
Okay.
So
you're still glass half full?
I'm glass half full,
okay.
And I still think they're the best team in the comp, and I still think they'll win the premiership.
Let's talk about the Warriors, and I began this by saying the Warriors are elite, and that is because where they are on the points table. You look at they take out the
elite.
You took out the Canberra loss. They've won 8 of 9. Okay, they've lost to the Melbourne Storm in that. They've got a 5-match winning streak, which is the best in the competition, and they've now got a gap between themselves and the Storm, 4 points. To 9th place, where your Broncos are, they've got 8 points. 11 games in, they've got an 8-point gap. They've already made the finals. I mean, they only have to win a couple of crap teams and they're in the 8. It's now about sustaining that and being in the 4. Lachlan, not a single person, I don't think, and not even the most super fan of the club, would have thought after 10 games, 8-2 and second in the table. And again, you don't get handed this in the NRL. You can talk about soft rules. You can talk about they've got luck. You can talk about whatever because they've won, 5 games, I think, with 4 points or less or something like that. But they're winning games, mate. And every other team wants to be this, don't they?
Yeah, I'm just double checking their points difference. Yeah, it's +5, so they're not.
It's not much.
They're conceding.
They've taken a couple of big
amount.
losses. That's right.
Yeah, they're conceding not a huge amount. I think they've got the 3rd or 4th lowest points against, but they're not scoring much. The Warriors, but all that matters is wins. There is a point, we can say.
So you're right, your glass is overflowing, isn't it? Like it's
not. No.
The tap's been left on, and you're getting glass after glass.
I'm not a Warriors fan, so it's not overflowing. It's glass half full for sure, and well done to the Warriors. And can I just say,
patronising sod?
Can I? No. I'm being serious. I don't like the Warriors. I say it every week, and I need to make sure people know that I don't like the Warriors because even though I'm a New Zealander, anyone who hasn't watched or listened to this podcast before, even though I'm a New Zealander, I'm not a Warriors fan.
Well, you don't have to.
However. Yeah, I know. I'm objective, I'm impartial. There was a period earlier this year where I was getting a bit carried away with my hatred and I've sort of brought myself...
Well, give it to the Broncos because they're sods, mate.
I am. Did you listen to me last week? Just before. Man, I can't stand the Broncos. I can't stand the Broncos.
Kick them out of the house.
I actually thought about wearing their jersey to work today just to look at the logo. Well, no, I won't say that next part.
This is the time you should be wearing it. This is the time you've got to be proud to be a fan.
Well, I am proud. I'm proud to wear the jersey because I'm proud for the teams and the players that walked before this current team and all the success they've garnered.
Anyway, back to the Warriors. Back to the Warriors.
I don't want to talk
Overflow on the Warriors.
I'm not overflowing on the Warriors, but I will gush about Andrew Webster and I'll gush about pretty much the entirety of this playing group because the one thing the Warriors have done for so long, apart from the Andrew Webster period, coaching them, what they have done for so long is underperform. They will beat the old. They'll get good wins over big teams of the past.
I agree with that.
Melbourne or the Roosters or teams that have been really good over the last 20 years. They'll have the odd performance. Everyone says at their best they're superb because they have the athletes and whatnot, but they can never consistently back it up.
So true.
And it was always a bit of a cultural thing. There wasn't the hard work that was being put in, and that's totally changed because this is a team that.
Got a great culture now, man.
They're building one. It doesn't take. You don't do it overnight. Even over 2 years, I think you got to do it more than that. But this is a roster. I think a lot of people would agree is not up there with the 4 or 5 or 6 best teams in the competence of the quality of the roster.
But they are on the table.
Exactly. Well, how do you change that? You get these sorts of results and you build these strong, impressive players and you get great young kids coming through like Leka Halasima. You got Ali Lautoa, who I'm a fan of as well. Really good young players coming through. But Andrew Webster is a superb coach. Now, I said at the start of the year, we had bold predictions for the season ahead, and I said if the Warriors don't maintain an element of competitiveness with their season, they fall away, they miss the top 8, but they don't win many games, and they go back to what they were doing in 2022 when Stacey Jones was the interim coach and they lost like 10 in a row, something ridiculous. Might not have been that many. He's going to get poached, Andrew Webster, and go overseas and go back to Sydney. Well, that's not going to happen at the moment because he's building something special. Yeah. And if I'm the CEO of the club and I'm the owner, I'm doing everything I can to stop anything because stuff goes on behind the scenes. I don't know specifically, but players get poached, and I'm sure coaches get poached behind the scenes. That stuff happens. Yep. So I'm sure there's some clubs in Sydney right now thinking, he's a New South Welshman. Yep. He was coaching at Penrith and the West Tigers as an assistant. Why can't we bring him back over here?
I agree.
So, point is, massive fan of Andrew Webster. Everyone is. I'm not really saying anything special and new here, but the work he's doing with this team is unbelievable.
Okay, glass half full, glass half empty on Luke Metcalf, who is now leading the Dally M after 11 rounds.
Glass half full.
Just terrific, isn't it? And I'm so pleased for this young guy because he's had the worst run of injuries. We've met him a few times. We've talked to him at press conferences. He's got
a questionable taste in football clubs.
He loves Man United. I love him for that as well. That set up the try, the little chip through on the weekend, was just genius, wasn't it? That's as good as you'll get from a guy playing his position in the NRL. Just the vision of it, the confidence to do that. Got the bounce, flicked it. That's a guy at the top of his game at the moment. His kicking is superb. And I'm not just talking about the place kick. I'm actually talking about his use of the ball.
Well, it's getting better and better.
Yeah, this is a great story. This young guy is a great story. Anyone that can come back from a year like last year, and how dispiriting that would have been. Glass overflowing with Luke Metcalf. Overflowing.
Yeah, a couple of things. I was just looking up the name to double check. Hugo Savala from the Roosters, who tore my Brisbane Broncos to shreds when they played up at Suncorp, who's been playing really well. He's a guy that came in and started playing for the Roosters and immediately was just a natural born kicker of the football. And Luke Metcalf wasn't the same at the start of the year, but his kicking has gotten better. The one thing that he does, and I don't mean to reference my Broncos again, but it's a tale of two teams at the moment, with the Broncos up here and the Warriors up here. Luke Metcalf embodies everything I think that the Broncos aren't, and specifically Reece Walsh isn't at the moment. The issue with Reece Walsh when he's been playing, obviously injured at the moment, when he's been playing is he tries to do too much. Metcalf is calm and he's smart and he picks his moments, making the right decisions. Yep. He's also a damn hard worker. He puts his body in the line, as Kempe highlighted last week, particularly on defence. You can't really fault what he's doing at the moment. And again, he's been waiting in the wings to be the halfback, and the run has been well timed by him and Andrew Webster. It's another masterstroke from both of them in the club. I can't say anything but good things about it.
Glass half full, glass half empty, the New South Wales Origin squad. Let me tell you right now, I looked at those 20 names. I know it's going down to 17, but the guys that are going to miss out are absolute beasts as well. This is 3-0. This is 3-0 this year. I can't see Queensland winning a game this year. That side with Nathan Cleary and Mitchell Moses now.
Mitchell Moses, yeah.
So no Luai, which is great because I don't think Luai has.
He was big last year in game three.
In
game three in Brisbane.
But his Origin form has been scratchy at best. He was brilliant in game 3. I'll give him that. But this side is winning 3-0. This is where the dominance starts with New South Wales. I don't think Queensland can actually compete with that squad.
Well, it's great. I'm looking through the names again. It's great to see Latrell Mitchell back in there at centre. I really like Latrell at centre. I think that's his best
forward
position.
pack's enormous.
The only issue I think with Moses and Cleary is, are you getting the balance right? That's me being very nitpicky. The forwards are great. You've got two almost contrasting but equally imposing front rowers, and Payne Haas and Mitch Barnett.
The workhorse and the guy that just smacks meters.
Yeah.
Try and stop them, Queensland. I can't wait. After taking it up the chutney from Queensland for years, this is New South Wales time.
Well, look at who's in your...
This is 3-0.
Look at the reserves as well. You've got Olakuatu.
I mean, that guy's just... He's the size
the bench,
of Everest.
I mean, you've got Spencer Leniu, who is a live wire
one
off
of the
bench.
best players in Origin last year, if not the best player, coming off the bench again.
Angus Crichton, I think, had a bit of a redemption year last year as well.
There may be questions about Huss and also Stephen Crichton, but I'd say that they'll both play. I reckon they'll both play. So,
well, I'm not sure. I don't know the severity of their knocks. I know Haas had ice over his quad. I'm not too sure what his injury is. Look, they have the talent. They've always had the depth. I think the one thing they've lacked the last couple of years has been a bit of the balance, which Queensland has had. But they've got the better team. 3-0, I'm not sure. Game 1's in Brisbane. That's never game 1 up there.
No,
but then I think game 2's in Adelaide, isn't it?
They won game 3 up there last year. These guys,
I know.
They've already conquered that.
The only thing that it's a different coach. Michael Maguire was the coach last year and seemed to tap into something. And people said he outsmarted Billy Slater. And Laurie Daly's back, who didn't have a great record. Granted, he was the coach when they broke that drought in 2014.
He was, yeah.
But that's the only area where things could get unstuck. Not that Laurie Daly's not a good coach, but you're changing the coach. So is it going to be the same team from last year?
Full.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm a Queensland fan, but I don't care.
Glass half full.
I'm a Kiwi. I don't care.
Okay, top 8. Let's go back to the NRL. I'm going to give you the 5 to 8 teams, and you're going to tell me glass half full, glass half empty on these teams. Are they making it? Sharks.
Glass half full.
Manly.
I don't know with Manly.
Are they staying in the 8? They're 5 and 5.
Well, I thought they would lose to the Cowboys, and I was ready to pretty much write them off making the top 8, but then they went up there and won. So I would be glass half slightly full.
Rabbits 6 and 5.
Glass half full. Absolutely on South Sydney.
Okay.
I'm glass half full.
Cowboys 4-1 and 5.
I don't know. They should have beaten Manly. I think they're a better team than Manly, even though they lost this game. They got killed by them in round 1. Maybe Manly are their bogey side. I'm not too sure. I'm sort of on the fence with the Cowboys. Glass half full, glass half empty. There's only 6 teams in the 17 above the 500. 35%. 65% of the teams out of the 17. Really?
Yeah. So
11 of the 17 teams have more losses than wins.
More losses than wins. Isn't that incredible? So of the top 8, Manly are 5 and 5, so they're evens. The Cowboys are 4-1 and 5, so they're below the 500, and everyone below them.
And Brisbane are 9th, and they're 5 and 6.
5 and 6. So everyone below them is below the 500. So it's just. I mean, what does this say about the competition?
Well, because you've got 2 teams not running away with it, but what's the gap between the Warriors and the
2
Raiders?
Points.
It's only 2 points.
2
And the
points.
Storm are 4.
2 points back.
So the Storm are 4 points behind the Warriors.
Raiders have played an extra game. So Dogs are on 20, Warriors
you
18.
Get 2 points for a bye.
Yeah,
so
Warriors 16,
sort of
Storm 14, Sharks 14. So only 6 teams are above the 500 after 11 rounds. I think that's glass half full for the competition, isn't it? It says a hell of a lot. It says that this competition is so even.
For the
bulk of the teams.
Yeah, well, for the neutral fan, for sure. For a fan of anyone who's not those 6 teams.
Sulky face. See, you started the season all happy and bright and thought that you'd actually do something. You really did this year.
There was an asterisk. I said they've got to turn around a lot of these work ethic issues from last year, but they've got the talent.
Yeah, but they've killed that rockstar mentality. They've thrown that out. Madge's in charge.
No, they haven't. I really thought they would have. I really did. And I've got to put my hand up, so I got that wrong.
Let's finish on this. Glass half full, glass half empty. I have already written off 4 teams that are gone after 11 rounds. Season over. Dolphins, Knights, Eels, Titans. Done. You're done. Turn the barbie off.
Agreed.
Okay,
yep, agreed.
It's over already after 11 rounds. All of you teams, you might win the odd game from here. You'll go on a streak of 3 or 4 or 5 losses. You'll win a game to keep your fans just kind of on the edge. But you're not making it. None of your teams are making it.
I think Parramatta could build into a little bit of form towards the end of the season. They are building something, and I think they're getting better by the weeks. The Knights are probably going to sack their coach soon if this keeps up.
The Titans, mate, they've lost 6 out of the last 7.
The things bubbled away about Des Hasler having get-out clauses, or how the Titans can get out of his contract a couple of weeks ago, which suggests, when there's smoke, there's fire, that they were looking to move on from him sooner rather than later, which I don't think would be a good move. The Titans have 3 players in Origin, by the way. The Sharks have 0 and the Titans have 3.
Dolphins. The Dolphins, now that the old salary sombrero's gone, that team is just going down, isn't it?
Well, it's a talented team with a coach who can be good, but I thought they'd beat the Warriors, but I got that wrong. And who's the other team? Parramatta?
Titans, Knights, Eels, Titans. They're all gone.
I would throw, in terms of making the top 8 or winning the premiership.
No, 8. None of those teams are winning jack.
Actually, to be fair, that's the only because I don't think you can't kick Penrith out of potentially making the 8. And then everyone else, I think, is in the mix. The Rabbitohs, the Broncos are certainly in the mix. The Roosters, I think, definitely are in the mix. They probably should have beaten the Dogs on Friday.
Be, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the Dragons have beaten a couple of. Well, okay, I was going to say good sides, but I don't know if I can call Brisbane a good side anymore.
Let's end on this. Glass half full, glass half empty. Just your general mood about the NRL at the moment.
I hate it. So last year, I always think it's. I've thought about this a lot. Like, whenever you think of like good years in your life, you obviously think about things in your personal life going well. Now,
I relate it to sports teams.
I relate it to sport as well. I'm a childish man.
I'm an emotional puddle. I relate my life to sports teams.
So when I think of 2024, I don't really look at it as a great year because the Eagles collapsed terribly in the NFL.
Liverpool choked the title.
Liverpool, we did because we had like a 5-point lead with about 10 games to go.
Broncos suck.
We were just
All Blacks lost 4 times.
The All Blacks didn't play too well. I mean, there's been, I think 2016 or 2015 weren't great years either. And I look at 2023, really, Eagles went to the Super Bowl, lost it. Broncos went to the Grand Final, lost it. All Blacks lost the World Cup final. I think Hawke's Bay lost the NPC final that year.
Yeah, that was a good year, wasn't it?
Tell you what, that's full final.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then I think of this year. Oh, hold up, Liverpool won the Premier League. Here we go. And we're already making some good signings for next season. We've got Eagles won the Super Bowl.
So you can't have all
Lakers
of it.
Lakers get Luka Doncic. Now
Oh, that's right. The Lakers do a Broncos.
Well, the Broncos do a Broncos. I just, I can't actually. Like, as soon as Clint Gutherson scored that try, I think it was St. George's penultimate try. It wasn't even their last one. I turned the TV off on Sunday. I was like, no. Why do I yell and rage at the TV? I can actually turn it off. I don't have to get angry. The problem is then you go to the kitchen to cook dinner.
Off Instagram next.
And then I probably will.
That's what young
then
people
I'll
do.
seethe and
Delete
I'll just
your Instagram. That's what they do.
Can I go back to the Warriors just quickly though? Because they've got 4 tough games coming up.
Yep.
They've got the Raiders.
Yes.
I think within that stretch they've got the Bunnies on the road.
Raiders, Rabbits, Sharks, Bye, Panthers. That order.
And the Panthers and the Raiders games are the 2 home ones. Those 2 in the middle are away games.
Yep.
What are they going on that stretch, the Warriors?
They get 2 and 4. They're in the top 4.
Do you think they're going 2 and 4? So what 2 do they win?
Well, I'm not going to pick that. I'm just saying they win 2 out of those 4. They make the top 4. Simple as that.
I think the Raiders game's a toss of the coin.
That is the prediction. 2 out of 4. They make the top 4.
Rabbits on the road will be tough.
They're all tough. None of these games are easy.
I know, but
they're capable.
This is a telling stretch because
top 4.
8 and 2,
top 4,
very good. But that points difference suggests they haven't been great wins.
Top 4.
I think that's fair to say.
Today.
So this stretch of 4, you're right. If they can go 2 from 4,
yep. Say it.
I would give them a 70 to 75% chance of making the top 4 if they go 2 and 4 at least in this next stretch. I'll give them a 70 to 75% chance. But it is a pretty close premiership.
That's glass half full, all right.
This is the DSPN.